All right, hope I haven't lost too many of you now with all of the different things we're throwing your way. This is going to be part 2 of the minor 7, major 7, suspended 4, suspended 2, and movement in chords. I have no idea what we're going to call this, but, but that's what we're going over. So in the last video we talked about how playing just a basic minor chord, adding that 7th of the minor scale to your minor chord adds a whole different element and a lot more color and flavor to the chord. We talked about how a suspended 2, a sus2 or a sus4 adds a different area of movement with inside the chord that that can just give you different options as you play. So if you're in the key of C and you go to your relative minor as a minor 7, we were going through the song Reckless Love. Oh, the overwhelming. The next one would be a 5 chord, never ending. So a sus4 is going to be suspending that 3rd to the 4th position. So that 3rd here is the B, never ending. And if you notice that 4, the reason why that sounds so good here is that it's keeping the root inside of the chord. A normal G, you don't have that. See, no one's playing the C here. So by having that suspended, it keeps almost a subconscious or subtle root tone carrying through the song. And music has a way, when you're playing in a key signature, it has a way of just humming that note without it even being sung or hummed. When I'm playing this, I'm hitting the C here, A minor, I'm hitting it, G I'm not, but I can still hear that C note. If you were in the key of any key, no matter what you're playing in, and you were to just have someone humming or singing or playing a consistent root note the whole song, it will always, always, always blend every single time, because all the chords are working together to have that effect, that binding effect in it. Okay, so a suspended 2. Let's just stay on the 5 here. Okay. A suspended 2, we're working off of the notes in that chord. Even though we are in the key of C, if you're in the chord of G, and that's the one you want to do a suspended 2 or a suspended 4 on, you're going off of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that chord. So a suspended 4 we talked about is suspending the 3rd note to the 4th level. That's the 4th. So here's our 3rd note. We're just moving up to the 4th. A suspended 2 would be moving it down to the 2nd. So moving the 3rd down to the 2nd. A lot of movement in there. There's a lot of movement happening, and I'm staying on a G chord. I never changed from it. It's just different ways you're playing it, and it creates all of this movement around a chord that's stationary. Very, very good tool to think of and use, because that gives you tons of options of movement inside of that. And movement helps create rhythm. Rhythm helps create another dynamic, especially to fill in if you don't have a lot of musicians that are playing with you. If you've got an acoustic player, an electric guitar player, bass, drums, you've got a lot of different notes and beats that can help you and free you up. And in another video, we're going to talk about when to play melody and leads and when to back off, when to play rhythm, when to play subtle, when to play loud, when to play soft. And that all depends on those factors. But these are things that you can use if you needed to. So now that we've covered that, I want to talk about major 7 chords. We talked about how to break down minor 7 chords. Well, major 7 chords, they're used a lot in like the genre of jazz. Gospel uses them a lot. Minor sevenths as well, but minor sevenths can be thrown in there and just add an element that even some other musicians can say, boy, it just sounds different whenever that chord's played. I don't know what it is. That's just adding one different note. That's all. Well, it's the same thing with a major 7, but there's less subtlety with a major 7 than there is with a minor 7. A minor 7, it's just a beautiful chord. There's dissonance, but you're adding a fifth to which is a part of the synoptic nature of a C chord. We talked about 5's and how they're very close in nature. They don't have a lot of dissonance. So when you're in the key of C, you're playing an A minor, you're getting a few elements of that root, but you're also adding the third thing that makes it a full C chord, which is what gives it almost a full effect of everything coming back home together. A major 7 usually will happen on a major chord. All the times it's going to happen on a major chord because it's a major 7, okay? So if a major C sounds like this, you've got the triad of C, E, G. Well, you're adding the 7 note inside of that scale. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the major scale of C. So that B note is what we're going to add into the key of C. Okay? So when you do this, that is the root voicing of a major 7. 1, 3, 5, 7. Major 7. We talked about dominant 7s in the last video. That's kind of that bluesy one. Well, a major 7, just like that. Okay? Now, it's not exactly comfortable to use a lot of fingers. When you play guitar, you don't like to use your pinky a lot, but sometimes as you're doing lead playing, you need to exercise that and use it from time to time because it's just an extra digit you have. Same thing with keys. You have the fingers to use. When you go to playing like 13 chords, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, that's kind of uncomfortable. At some point you have to start using more than just one note on your left hand. That's a major 13. Not used a lot because there's a lot of clashing tones in there, but there is a purpose for it, okay? Major 11 would just be 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. Major 9 and a major 7. All right? So with the major 7 chord, you have to tastefully kind of throw this in. Now there's a song that we do, it's called Jesus We Love You. It's one of my favorite worship songs for a lot of reasons, but that one has, in the recording of it, some major 7 chords in there. Okay, so let's see, because I'm going to be kind of partially singing this too, I want to make sure it's in a good key. That's kind of high. Let's just do it in the key of G. That's a little bit lower for me. It's nighttime for me, so my voice is kind of wore out from the day. Okay. All things have passed away. It goes to the 4 chord there, which in the key of G is a C. Now you can play a major 7 here if you want. All things have passed away. Remember, the C major 7 is just with an added B, so you can play that here. You can play it down like this. You can play it here. It just kind of depends on where you want to play that. So if I'm playing it here, notice I'm not playing the C in that because it's already played on the bass. So all the notes are covered, I'm just spreading it out differently, okay? All things have passed away. And then you come back down to the root. Your love has stayed the the same. Now you can add a 7 here. So a 7th here would be, so you can play it up here like this, or you've got another F sharp right down here. And you can even add dissonance here and play these, the G and the 7 back to back right here. All right. Now it doesn't matter which key you do this in, but if we decided to do it in C, all things have passed away. There's your 4 chord 7. It's a F minor 7. Now, as you're doing climbs on major 7s are nice to do to close songs out, to fill in spots. I mean, you have 88 keys to use, why not use them, right? So climbs are holding your sustain pedal down and then playing your major 7 chord. And again, it doesn't matter which key you do this in. So you could be in the key of D. That's a major 7. And then we're going back to the root. That's another major 7. That makes it a major 7 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's a D flat. Climbs just can spread things out. It's like the full extent of open voicing. So major 7s, as you can tell, if you played every single major chord in this song, it almost makes you, I don't want to say ear fatigue, but you just can kind of get lost in it a little bit. It can be a little much added to it. So you want to use it tastefully. If all you played was major 7s and nothing else with it, it's like tasting a spice in a really good recipe of something that you like what the spice adds, but it's a little too much for just eating a whole meal out of it. I don't know if that analogy makes sense at all, but so tastefully adding in some of these extra chords. Minor 7s are easy to add in because they add so much. These are all forms of minor 7s, just depending on where you're playing them, minor 7s. It adds so much back to the root. It complements the root chord when you're playing that minor, which makes it some of the easiest to listen to chords that you can have as a minor chord. Major 7s, they're nice to hear, just kind of from time to time, so you got to really use your discretion in how you use it. So, for instance, we could try going back to Reckless Love and just see what this sounds like. So, I'm going to throw in, I think I'm going to throw in maybe a major 7 on the 4 chord here. So we'll do minor 7 here. For I spoke a word, you were singing over me. So I'm going to make this next chord a major 7. Kind of nice, right? Now, if I added every single major chord as a major 7 in this one, it's probably going to be a little much. For I spoke a word, you were singing over me. See, sometimes it just doesn't make sense to throw that in there. So you just got to kind of start to play with your ear a little bit, see what's going to mix well and what's not. Okay? So I don't think this video went as long as the last one did, but I kind of wrapped up what I wanted to talk about, which is the nutshells of minor 7s, major 7s, suspended 4s, suspended 2's, and yeah, we kind of covered that. So again, in subsequent videos going forward, we're going to discuss all of these things and how to apply them with each step as we're going along. So if you're overwhelmed or you're getting lost, we always have elements of review in every single session. And I try to do that to make sure that you're seeing how the mathematics of all of this stack up with each other. And if they're still not, if you're still confused at this point, and I went too fast for you, you can either rewind until I lost you, or you can go back to previous videos and maybe watch those in order again and make sure you didn't miss a step. You can always email me if you have questions along the way. You can reach me on at lifechurchlessons@gmail.com. And I also offer private lessons for people that maybe are wanting just that one-on-one type sessions of kind of where they're at and how to hone in their skill level. Sometimes you might be doing something and you have a question of whether it's actually appropriate or working or not, and you can do that in email if you want to write that and send it over. I'll gladly talk with you through whatever your problem is. But yeah, just make sure that you're understanding the steps as we go along, because if you get lost in any of this, the theory kind of goes out the window and then you're just doing guesswork again, and guesswork is what got you here in the first place. There's a difference between guesswork and experimentation. Guesswork is, I don't really know what notes are in this chord or scale of where I want to go with it, so I'm just going to guess that one. And if I'm right, cool. And if not, people are probably going to look my way in the middle of me playing like, oh, what happened there? It's just a natural reaction. Experimentation is, I'm pretty sure I've got the theory down with where I could go with this. I'm going to experiment and see what it sounds like. So another thing I want to add in here is we had a recent session with somebody that came in to kind of do a workshop with our worship teams, and they mentioned that practice is personal and rehearsing is kind of corporate, or what we do with other people. So you don't ever want to show up somewhere and start throwing out things that you just want to kind of practice and work on the new tricks that you've learned or the new techniques you've learned. You don't want to be a show-off anyway. It's not about that. But if you really think that what you are going to add with your instrument and bring to the table is going to help and benefit your situation, practice that on your own time. And it's not to be harsh. It's just that time you have with everybody is to just take everything that you're each bringing, hopefully already rehearsed, so that you don't have to focus on the musicality as much, and you can get your hearts in a worship mindset. You can prepare your hearts for leading people and entering into worship yourself. And even if you're just playing out and you're not doing a worship set, and you're just playing for the fun of it with other people, it just allows you to relax and have fun if you already have practiced what you want to do. So know the difference between practicing and experimentation, and know the difference between practice and rehearsal. So that's all I have for this video. We'll see you in the next session, and we'll take this thing further.